Okay, we're here at St. Louis Escape once again, and we want to make a part 2, even though this has nothing to do with Halloween, and most of our videos are Halloween. We want to make a part 2 to our conversation about Stern Pinball and the John Wick controversy. Because I really don't think it's like that's the problem. About the fact that they didn't put guns on John Wick. I think the problem with Stern and the problem with pinball in general is they cost too much, and then when you don't get a great theme, you're not going to get a lot of sales. And you know, from reading the comments, and I just want to take a look at this game, Foo Fighters. You know, when I say like Foo Fighters aren't really that popular, that's because they're not, and neither is Rush, and neither is Iron Maiden, just as an example. But you're going to have people who say, "Oh no, I was excited about Foo Fighters." Of course, you were excited about Foo Fighters if you said that because you're a big fan of Foo Fighters. The problem is, there's not a lot of fans of Foo Fighters in the same way that there's a lot of fans for, say, Taylor Swift, as an example. Can you imagine a Taylor Swift pinball machine? It would go way beyond the people on pinball Facebook groups, Pinside, and so on and so forth. Like, you would have a pool of millions and millions and millions and millions of people who love Taylor Swift. So Stern, here's my first problem with everything that you said, that you want to grow pinball. You want to take it out of the world of picking themes that appeal to 45-year-old men, 55-year-old men, 60-year-old men, whatever. If you're wanting to peel it out of there, then you better pick a theme that appeals to a massive amount of people, because those people don't normally buy pinball. So what you're hoping is the people who do buy pinball buy it, but then you want to like take it out of that world and get it into the mainstream of the fans of that particular movie, musical artist. I'm sorry, you're not going to do that with Rush. You're not going to do that with Iron Maiden. You're not going to do that with Foo Fighters. It's just not going to happen. You would have to, like, you're trying to grow pinball. I mean, Taylor Swift would get you a lot of notoriety, okay? But there's other bands too that would do that. Michael Jackson, he's not technically a band, he's an artist. Michael Jackson pinball would be the biggest selling pinball that was ever created, because Michael Jackson has fans in every country in the world. He still makes hundreds of millions of dollars every year, even though he's no longer with us. His estate is worth billions. His music is still super popular. And when you go to YouTube and you look at how many followers he has, how many views he has on his videos, how many times it comes on the radio, you know, like constantly, you know, that would grow pinball. So short of you licensing something that a lot of people would like take notice of, it's certainly not going to be John Wick. It's definitely not going to be Venom. And by the way, since I'm mentioning Venom, let's be real here. You've done enough Marvel themes to like literally destroy the concept of a Marvel movie. If you're really set on doing comic book characters, where's Superman? Where's Aquaman, Wonder Woman? One of your biggest sellers of all time was Batman 66, but why not Superman? He's iconic. I am not actually a big fan of Superman, but there are people who collect things that relate to Superman. The most expensive comic book ever sold was a Superman comic book. That's like getting Babe Ruth's autograph. It's like that collectible. There is no Marvel comic that compares to getting a Batman or Superman, like a #1 comic that just doesn't exist. But, you know, where's Superman? I don't know. Like, to me, that would make a lot more sense than doing X-Men 97. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I would not want an X-Men 97. Not to mention you've already done X-Men. You've done Deadpool, which wasn't even based on the movie, which sucks. You've done Hulk. You've done Avengers. I mean, you've done Spider-Man. I mean, you've killed the genre. Okay, like, stop with the Marvel already. Like, and I'm being dead serious. You have too many of them. But here's some ideas on how to grow pinball, and I'm gonna say this to basically all the pinball companies, specifically Jersey Jack and Stern, because they seem to have the engineering and the technology to kind of do it, but they're not doing it. And then I'm going to run over a bunch of themes that I think would help sell pinball. Because I'm going to tell you something, Stern and Jersey Jack. Your Elton John game is amazing, but it's Elton John. Nobody wants Elton John pinball. And you're going to say, well, that's not true because we're selling some, but you're not selling that many, okay? Compare it to Guns N' Roses. Like, you made Guns N' Roses for a goddamn 2 years. Okay, you're going to make Elton John for a handful of months, and you're going to move on to the next title because you got to keep the assembly line rolling. One of the things I would say to Jersey Jack is, like, why can't you walk and chew gum when you have a theme that's not overly popular? Like, Godfather was a disaster. Don't know why you did that. I think that if we literally polled people, if you're going to do a gangster pinball machine, which one would it be? Godfather would finish dead last. It would finish behind Scarface. It would finish behind Casino, Godfather. It would finish behind clearly Pulp Fiction. It's not that popular anymore. It's kind of like, I don't think anyone really cares about Godfather anymore. It came out of an era where all the movies were like dramas, and we're past that now. People want, you know, action movies, and of course people still love comedies, but nobody wants Godfather pinball. That's why the pinball machine was a complete disaster. Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted Toy Story 4 because nobody likes that movie. It was absolutely terrible. I couldn't even watch it to the end. It was so bad. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. 3, I think, was the best one, but either way, you themed the whole game around a giant rabbit rather than Buzz and Woody. Like, you dropped the ball on that theme. And if you could only license Toy Story 4, and that's the funny part, you release the game years after Toy Story 4 comes out. Like, what sense does this make? It makes none. The playfield should have been like the kids' toy box, not a carnival. So the game made no sense. People didn't love the actual layout of the game. I thought it was fun. It should have definitely had more to it. It should have had like a ramp, not a ramp, but like a rail with like a slinky dog on it. It maybe could have had a bash toy of a potato head. You know, it could have had like so many things related to the Toy Story franchise you totally missed. And it is what it is, but that's water under the bridge. You've literally picked some of the worst themes while raising the price to astronomical levels. When we go back to the last pinball games, Jersey Jack, that you made that actually sold really well was Guns N' Roses. When that game came out, the starting price was $9,500. Now your starting price is $12,000 and your CE price is $15,000. So when Guns N' Roses CE, when the orders came out, the game was $12,500. Now they're $15,000. And what themes have you produced since Guns N' Roses? Toy Story 4, nobody wanted. Godfather, I mean, nobody wanted. I mean, we're talking nobody. You could use that pinball machine right now for a boat anchor. And then you came out with Elton John. And I'm sorry, it's the game is amazing. It really is. Just Elton John, like for real. Change that theme to Beastie Boys and you would sell 5 times more. Change that to basically almost anything and you would sell so much more. People don't want to spend $15,000 for an Elton John. And I'll tell you another thing, when you pick a theme as weak as Elton John, maybe you shouldn't say you're gonna make 1,000 or 2,000 collector's editions. Maybe you should feel the pulse of the buying community and go, let's create a little FOMO, and let's say there's only gonna be 500 CEs. Let's say there's gonna be 600, whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, create a little FOMO to drum up a little bit of interest. But right now, when you're looking at a Godfather game and it was 15,000 for a CE, and people literally have it for sale for $8,500, $9,500, why would someone want to give you 15,000 for Elton John, which is not like flying off the shelves? Nobody is. But if you said there was only going to be 600 or something like this, that might actually help. But Stern, you have technology in these games that if you just went a step further, and I'm going to give you an example for the people who don't understand about a Stern game. You have this thing called Insider Connect, which is on your games, and we have them on all of our pinball games. Let's go over and look at that, okay? Because it's really just scratching the surface. In Jersey Jack, you could literally be left in the dust if you don't figure out something similar. Because I'm gonna come over here and you log in your phone. Now, most people don't understand there's code on a machine, and they don't understand you could win the game. They don't understand any of that. And if you wanna grow pinball, you gotta keep them playing it, feeling like they're trying to get better and literally advance further in the game. That's what you want. But a lot of people aren't going to go to YouTube and watch a video for an hour or two to learn the rules and then remember it. Wouldn't it be cool if you scanned in here and the game knows what you did, and it could literally send you hints and tips. It could publish them on the screen, and it could literally tell you for the next time you play, try it this way, try this tip, try that tip. You could do that. You want to talk about growing pinball, that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is, now that you're going to come out with a more powerful system, why don't you get a big TV screen the way that Jersey Jack has? But even if you didn't, you know what would be great is if you could scan in right here and you could literally go to a community and I could play my friends in other cities, other countries. And I would see right here in the corner of the screen, they would see me, I would see them, because you don't have a camera in the game like Jersey Jack does. So right now, the only thing that Jersey Jack is using this camera for is to put you in the game like they've done with some of their games, but also to take your picture for the high score. Stern, why don't you have that? Because when I look at a Jersey Jack pinball machine versus a Stern limited edition, I mean, first off, let's not even compare Jersey Jack CE to a Stern LE, because there's no comparison there. But there's really no comparison. You want $12,800 for this game. Jersey Jack wants $12,000, and this game is literally twice as good as your game because it has a camera, it comes with a topper, it has a bigger screen, it literally has, look at all these lights. I mean, it must have like 5 times more lights than a Stern game does. They're now adding Radcal. They have this unit here to turn on the sound or to Bluetooth in or use headphones. There's so much more to a Jersey Jack than there is to a Stern, but one of the big things is the camera that's in the game. So Stern, why can't you have a camera, put a bigger screen in now that you're moving to a more powerful system, but you probably won't, but maybe you will. But make it so that I can log in and my friend can log in and we can play a game together. We can play each other. That keeps people playing the games. Because you know where most people are playing the games? They're playing in their basement by themselves with no one to play with. They just go down by themselves and play the game. Now, if you could log on to your pinball machine in the same way now that they have Golden Tee, which is now PGA, but you're able to play people anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. They have dart machines now where you could play people anywhere in the world. So you're not with your friends, but you can. So when you think about growing pinball, you know what you could do to grow pinball is think about why Call of Duty is so popular. Why is Fortnite so popular? Because you can play with your friends anywhere in the world at any time, and you can lose and you can ask for a rematch, okay? This is factual. Now, you know what would also be very interesting is if you could change the settings with your phone by logging into the game. And so the game doesn't, you don't need to open the coin door, but you can do it with your app and the game will know, okay, hey, Larry's playing and he wants different rules on the game because I'm gonna play my friend and so we're gonna match the rules. It would be really cool from your app if you could change the game. Just saying. There's so much when you talk about growing pinball that you could do to bring these games into the 22nd century, 21st century. I don't even know what it is at this point. But there's so much you could do with technology that other video games do, from Xbox to even games like Raw Thrills, where you get on a motorcycle game from Raw Thrills and it says it's waiting for other people like all over the world to join your race. But you can't do that with a pinball machine. You talk about growing pinball, but you don't even want to invest the technology to make it a worldwide thing where everybody can get online and play their friends, make new friends, make friends on social media or Pinside or wherever, and challenge them to a game or so on and so forth. And the game could change the settings so that both players are playing with the same rules. There's so many things that could grow pinball, but here's how you're not going to grow pinball. You're not going to grow pinball by trying to get themes that appeal to the younger generation, okay? Because they don't have the money to pay $7,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 for a pinball game that literally just sits there like an anchor and it's only tied to your house or whatever. They're not going to do that. Not when you pay $20 a month for Xbox Live and you pay $35 for Fortnite to download on you, and you can play the game 1,000 times. You can play Call of Duty 1,000 times. But the reason why Call of Duty is popular is because, and why all these games are popular, if you think about it, these mission games are no longer where the bread and butter is. The bread and butter is getting online and playing other people. And you're not playing whole missions that take 2, 4, 5, 6 days to accomplish. You're playing quick games against your friends, against anybody in the world, and you literally get killed, let's say, and you start a new game right away. This is how some of the ideas for you to grow pinball, and it's certainly not going to be from picking a theme like John Wick when you don't put guns on it. The people who want to pay $12,800 for a pinball at this point, they're not interested in how great the layout is. They're more interested in the theme, because these games, I'm telling you right now, the key to making them sell is picking a theme that a lot of people, a big pool of people, would want to invest $12,000, $18,000, to $15,000 into. Okay, and Stern, by the way, your LEs are basically the same price as a Jersey Jack LE when you factor in a topper. They're basically the same, and Jersey Jack provides more than you do, and that's a shame. Everything about a Jersey Jack pinball is better, with the exception of the Insider Connect. And that is a problem that Jersey Jack needs to solve, in my opinion. But Stern, you have it at your fingertips, and you literally can make the move to make the Insider Connect do a lot more than it does right now. And that's how you're going to grow pinball. So, but what is going to drive sales for Stern, Jersey Jack, or any of these other people? When you're Spooky Pinball and you're saying, well, we're only going to make 750, and they're not, from what I'm hearing, they're not even selling all 750. They're doing boutique themes like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And they're doing 2 themes at the same time, Looney Tunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because what they want to do is they want to get a year's worth of production, because I'm guessing it takes them about 8 to 10 months to make, say, 1,200 games. So they're doing 2 themes. It's a great idea. They're doing boutique themes like Looney Tunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Good for them. They did Halloween and Ultraman. Halloween obviously was a very popular theme. I think the game, the execution of the game was very poor. The artwork was very poor. And you know, when I look at Stern pinball games right now, I'll tell you another thing that's working against you is the artwork. The artwork on John Wick is just horrifically bad. The artwork on Venom is great because it's like cartoonish looking artwork and it really works. But you're destroying pinball by constantly going to this cartoonish artwork. You did that for Godzilla, you did that for, I mean, basically, but when you look at the most popular ones from an artwork standpoint, you look at Batman 66, I mean, everybody would love to have the SLE artwork. The artwork on Elvira is disgustingly incredible. It's just absolutely insane. You need to get different artists. I really feel like you're just basically stuck in the mud with this cartoon artwork, and it's just getting like old looking. Rush looks so bad. I don't know who did Rush, but it had that same thing, that cartoony look on the playfield. It was awful. Your best games are the ones, in my opinion, are the ones that Christopher Franchi did. I mean, it's terrible that you can't get him back. Or maybe you should get him back. I don't know. But when you look at Elvira, that artwork works for Elvira. It works for Venom. But when you look at a game like John Wick, I just don't think it works. I think you should have used the photos from the movie, which is something, and you combine that with artwork. That's, in my opinion, Christopher Franchi's wheelhouse. And I think, like, when you look at Elton John, geez Louise, the artwork is just insane. And American Pinball, you have to stop doing themes like barbecue. Nobody wants that. But you know, a lot of people were intrigued by Galactic Tank Force because Christopher Franchi nailed the artwork. People were just drawn to the game because of the artwork. I think one of the things that Stern and Jersey Jack and all these guys need to understand is a lot of people who buy pinball buy them because it's like art, okay? So you really have to nail the art, in my opinion. And when you look at Elton John, you really, I mean, like, the art is just off the chain. It's just so incredible. And even though it's not real photos of Elton John, it doesn't have that cartoon feel to it that we get from a lot of Stern games. When you look at this Elvira, it does not have a cartoon look to it like this does. And when we go over to like Foo Fighters, it's got that same look, you know, it's very cartoony looking. I mean, it's just kind of super busy and very cartoony look. But I do like the artwork on Foo Fighters. I did not like the artwork on Rush. I do like this cartoon look. Whoever did Deadpool, they did a fantastic job. But you don't have to make every game like this. When we slide over here to Godzilla, instead of doing the artwork in this style, you could have just used the artwork and mixed like photos from the movies with artwork. I don't know, just saying, that's my opinion. But let's move on and let's talk about themes, because that's what sells games. You know, probably the most ridiculous thing I hear from hardcore pinball players is that the most important thing is code. That is not true. Theme is what is the most important. The people who bought AC/DC and the people who bought Metallica, they bought it because they love that band. I mean, that's the bottom line, that it plays the songs. And I think another thing, like Stern, you got to go the extra mile. When you look at Jersey Jack and they do music pins, they're literally loading it up with 20 songs. And you look at Aerosmith and you didn't even use their best song, which is Dream On. Well, it's because they wanted a little extra for licensing Dream On. Well, you should have had Dream On and Aerosmith, in my opinion. And by the way, that would have been another game, in my opinion, too, that I would have liked to see different artwork. I wasn't a fan of the Aerosmith artwork. And just to kind of give you an example of another game where you just didn't nail the art. But let me give you a couple other suggestions. What if you did games based on Major League Baseball? And with the technology that we're talking about, especially with the Insider Connect, what if you had a game that you could play and you could pick what team you were and you would have a different lineup? What if you were the NFL and you were trying to score touchdowns, kick field goals, but you could actually play your friends? Think about like boxing or UFC. Like, I'm gonna pick what fighter I am when I start the game, and then I'm gonna try to win a championship, and I'm gonna try to like go through different fighters, and I could literally be playing a friend. Think about like the NBA or like NHL. That would be a fun pinball game. But think about like NBA, and you did NBA Jam, like just for a pinball machine, but you could also play your friends. So you're like the Lakers and they're the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, like, this would be so much fun. When you talk about growing pinball, you have to be able to do it by enhancing the ability of the machine to interact with other people. So now we're going to talk about themes, and I'm going to go over some themes. I'm going to start with rock bands, and then I'm going to go to movies, and then later, I'm going to give you my top 15 themes that I think would just, like, without even seeing the game, people are going to line up to buy, even at the inflated prices there are right now. Nirvana. What the hell did you do Foo Fighters for? Why didn't you get Nirvana? You can go into any Target, any Walmart, any store in the mall, and you'll find Nirvana stuff to buy all over the place. Like, what is the first clue that you're missing? When you go into these same stores, you don't see anything from Foo Fighters. You don't see anything from any of these other bands you keep doing games on. You see the same bands. You see Led Zeppelin, you see AC/DC, you see Nirvana, you see Metallica. I mean, it's the same bands. I get it. But Nirvana is one of the big ones. Like, if you had Nirvana, even if the license cost a little bit more, it would be worth it, because, like, let's say how many Foo Fighters you sell. Let's say you sold 2,500. It's got to be at the very best a quarter of what you sold to Metallica. So how many Nirvanas could you sell? My guess is you would probably sell 6,000 to 7,000 Nirvanas, because there's just that many people who love that band and they would want that pinball game as a collectible. Michael Jackson, I think, would be the biggest selling pinball in the history of pinball if you had it. He's just massive. He's huge. And by the way, pinball has never tried to get out of the rock and roll realm. You haven't done Prince or Van Halen or Maroon 5 or Coldplay or Beastie Boys or Run DMC. You haven't tried to get anywhere out of the realm of rock and roll. So obviously Prince, I think, when you think about like the artwork, man, I would love to see Christopher Frenchy do a Prince machine. I think this would be right up Jersey Jack's alley, and if I was Jersey Jack, I would run to the phone and try to license Prince right now. Can you imagine Let's Go Crazy on a multi-ball? Like, get out of here. Now, if you're gonna like continue to do the rock pins, you got to go with a rock pin that literally was from the 80s and 90s, that hair glam. And I would definitely consider Motley Crue. I think Motley Crue has the type of songs that people know, even if they're not a fan of the band. They know Girls, Girls, Girls. They know those songs. And I think Motley Crue would be a big pinball machine. It'll also lend itself really well to the artwork, and getting the clips of them playing and the clips of their different videos, I think really works. I think Van Halen, when you think about Van Halen, they stretch across 3 decades, the 1970s, the 1980s, and the 1990s. They were literally had #1 hits or big hits in all 3 of these decades. They span multiple generations. And when you think about Van Halen, you think of like playing pinball to Hot for Teacher, or Running with the Devil, or 1984. I mean, 1984 is the album, but I mean the Jump. I mean, there's so many great Van Halen songs. If it were me, just my opinion, I wouldn't do the Sammy Hagar songs. Anyway, another band that literally stretches across 3 decades of hits would be Def Leppard. I believe their first album came out in like 1979, I think. Obviously, they were big in the 80s, and they were really big in the 90s. They have several #1 hits. The biggest hit on the jukebox, where you pay the money to actually put on is Pour Some Sugar on Me. Def Leppard would definitely be big. And if I was like trying to like sell a lot of pinballs, American Pinball, like go license Def Leppard immediately. Ozzy Osbourne / Black Sabbath, either one would be great. Madonna, why hasn't there been a Madonna pinball machine? I mean, when you're trying to grow pinball, Stern, like why aren't you thinking about something like Madonna, where it gets it out of this like, we're gonna do all of this like thrash metal and so on and so forth, and you do something totally 180. Madonna has millions and millions and millions of fans. She just played in South America in front of the largest crowd in the history of music. She played in front of over 1 million people. I know a lot of hardcore pinball fans would say hell no, but I would say hell yes. Madonna, are you kidding me? There's so many songs, so much material there. Run DMC. Run DMC, I think I could see Stern doing Run DMC, but you know who could really do Run DMC is American Pinball. Go get Run DMC and say there's only going to be 1,200 Run DMCs. You'll sell all of them before you could. I mean, I think Run DMC would be perfect for a boutique company. If you could get Run DMC, it'd probably be a license you could easily get. Beastie Boys, Jersey Jack needs to do Beastie Boys. What the hell did you do Godfather for Elton John? When Beastie Boys is a Brooklyn band, you're from New Jersey, it's perfect. It's first time pinball will ever get into the rap realm. Beastie Boys is a band from the 80s, but it also crosses over into the 90s with grunge. It's like it's all over the board. It's got the grunge fans, it's got the rap fans. Beastie Boys would be a huge title. I also think Leonard Skinner, The Doors, bands like this would be great pinball machines. Coldplay would be one of those bands where they're so gigantic they could take you out of the traditional fans of pinball. I think Eminem would be a great theme to get out of the, to break pinball into another genre. I think Eminem would do really well. I think U2 would do really well. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I'm not a fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers, but they have a lot of fans and they have a lot of great songs I think would really relate to pinball. I think another really big band that would kind of like lower the age group of pinball but would still hit the note would be Green Day. I would not personally, I'm not really a big fan of Green Day, but Green Day would be a great band to do a pinball machine on. If you're trying to think outside the box, In Excess, The Cars, but like Poison would be a great theme for a pinball company like American Pinball, because Poison just has party songs galore. There's enough hits there that you could sell 1,000 pinball machines, no problem. Twisted Sister would be a great theme for a company like Spooky. It would be just right up their alley. And if we're thinking out of the box again, Duran Duran obviously is a big band. Queen, I don't even count the fact that that's been done. That's a theme that I think Jersey Jack or Stern should do. The game really doesn't count. Nobody wants it. And this is a perfect example. You got a big band, but the artwork is just horrendous. And people don't buy it just on the artwork alone. I think Journey would be okay, but it's really kind of considered soft rock. So is Tom Petty. The Eagles are the biggest selling rock band of all time. Maybe. But there's so many fans. But here's a theme. When we talk about music, I would definitely jump on is the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees is like, oh my God, I could see a disco ball in there. The songs are incredible. They've lasted. They've tested the all through. I mean, they're being used in movies. I just think the Bee Gees would be a huge theme for Stern or Jersey Jack. Blondie. Tons of hits, perfect theme for American Pinball. Go jump on Blondie and say, we're only making 1,000 of them and you will sell them. Boston, not so sure. It's kind of like soft rock, but they have a lot of hits. I would not want a Pearl Jam theme because they're from the grunge era, but their music really doesn't sound like grunge when you think of Nirvana and a lot of the other bands where they had a little bit more edge to them. But Pearl Jam is a big band, as is Soundgarden. I would put them in the same category as Pearl Jam. But I do think Tool would really work for pinball because that is would be just like getting Metallica in a lot of ways because their music is just it's more hardcore and it probably hits pinball players more right on the top of the head, as would Korn. I don't know why anyone hasn't done Korn. This is one of the biggest rock bands of literally the last 20 years when rock has essentially almost been dead. Korn is massive. I think Korn is a perfect theme for Stern. You should jump all over that theme. No Doubt, maybe. And here's a theme I think would really work for a company like American Pinball or Spooky or maybe even Chicago Gaming is Cypress Hill, because Cypress Hill, they're embraced by the grunge community. They're embraced by the rap community. I really could see a Cypress Hill pinball machine. Maroon 5, I don't know. I mean, they're more modern. That would be like looking, hey, you can't get Taylor Swift. She won't do it. Maybe you can get Maroon 5. That would get new people playing pinball for sure. Depeche Mode, if we're going down that road, I don't know. I mean, I think a Depeche Mode machine would, again, be more of a boutique. Now, let's move over to movies. Stern, where's Goonies? You already dropped the ball on Back to the Future. But more so, I would like to see Jersey Jack do Goonies. And I'm going to complain about Jersey Jack because you really lost your way. You were doing Willy Wonka. You were doing Wizard of Oz. You're doing all these family movies. You did Toy Story. Okay, these whimsical fantasy things. And then you just didn't get Back to the Future, which was a drop of the mic. I mean, it was a drop of the ball. But Goonies, I would love to see Jersey Jack do Goonies. I would love to see Jersey Jack do Three Stooges, but I would take Stern as well. I think Three Stooges would be one of the biggest themes anybody could do. I don't know why it hasn't been done. Stern, instead of doing John Wick, you should have done Die Hard. I'm not a big fan of Die Hard, but when you look on Ranker, this is a place that you can actually see if movies are popular. It's the #1 action movie on Ranker, and people love Die Hard. Beetlejuice. Now, it's rumored that Spooky's going to do it. Stern, you had your chance. You picked Monsters. And Stern, let me give you a piece of advice. Find people in the pinball community to give you advice on themes. Because if it's true that your designer had to choose Beetlejuice to Monsters, and he picked the Monsters and it didn't really sell that well, shame on you, because Beetlejuice is 100 times bigger than the Monsters. Beetlejuice, you go into any Halloween store and you'll see Beetlejuice stuff for sale everywhere. You can go to Walmart right now and buy something Beetlejuice. You can buy nothing, and I mean nothing, for the Monsters. Fast Times at Ridgemont High would be a great pinball machine. In fact, I would love to see Ferris Bueller and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where you did 1,000 Ferris Buellers and 500 Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the same exact pinball machine, just different artwork with the movie clips. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a classic movie with tons of one-liners. And I think this is what like Stern and Jersey Jack don't understand. You want to get movies that have, where you can get the movie clips and you get all those one-liners like that we get out of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But like the kingpin of one-liners has to be Caddyshack. You have one-liners from Ted Knight, Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, and of course Bill Murray. Caddyshack, Gary Stern himself told me, well, that's already been done because no good gophers. No, it has not been done. Caddyshack, in my mind, is the best comedy in the history of comedy, and it needs a pinball machine with all those one-liners. It's in the hole. Like, come on. Like, how does that not, like, perfectly fit in with pinball? Vacation, the whole Vacation series would be huge. The Blues Brothers would be huge, especially with that soundtrack. Airplane, like American Pinball, why don't you license Airplane? Or Spooky, you could do this game too. But Airplane would be like huge. If you want American Pinball, you want to put your name right on the map, license Airplane, it would probably be something you could easily license. Animal House. Can you imagine doing like Elvira and the house was in the back and they did the mod like the car in James Bond? And like this is just screaming to be a pinball machine when Bluto says food fight and there's like 100 multi-balls run all over the place. I'm also gonna throw Ghostbusters out there because we don't have a Ghostbusters with movie clips. You're gonna redo Metallica, why not redo Ghostbusters but just with movie clips? Fast and Furious. Why? Now, Stern, you're talking about growing pinball and you did John Wick. I love John Wick, but I just don't think that that's the theme people want to pay at $13,000 for. Fast and Furious spans across multiple decades. I mean, they've been making these movies for 20 years. There's people who first saw it when as a teenager and now they're 40 years old. This is a video game that has been licensed all over the place. It's perfect for somebody like Steve Ritchie when you're going to try to make the game super fast. Here's another theme that I don't know why it hasn't been done is Rambo. But I'm going to tell you a theme right now, Stern, or I would actually love to see Jersey Jack do this one, is Mad Max. The music is insane. Car crashes and all kinds of insanity. Where's Mad Max? Here's a theme that I really think I'd love to see Chicago Gaming, American Pinball, or Spooky do is Young Frankenstein. I think this is a theme that you could do and you could easily make it a boutique theme and like you're gonna do 1,000 and that's it. I think you would sell all 1,000. Home Alone, Office Space, Happy Gilmore, Something About Mary, Anchorman, Hangover. Why is there no comedy pinball games? I don't know, but Big Lebowski showed you that this little boutique company could make these games for damn near 10 years and they just keep selling because people want it. The game makes them laugh. The one-liners are a classic. They're quoted all the time. Imagine Office Space or Ferris Bueller or Happy Gilmore, Something About Mary or Anchorman or Hangover had, literally 3 movies. Here's another theme I really don't understand why it hasn't been done is Smokey and the Bandit. I think Smokey and the Bandit's a perfect theme for Stern. If you're worried about guns on your pinball machine, Smokey and the Bandit is full of one-liners. It's car related. People love cars. When you look on YouTube, Stern, Jersey Jack, and the rest of you, look at the YouTube pages that have the most followers, that have the most views. It's always related to automobiles. So when you're trying to think of themes, Mad Max, Smokey and the Bandit, anything to do with Fast and Furious, anything to do with cars, there is like, I'm telling you, the biggest YouTube pages are the ones where they do something with automobiles. Fight Club would be a great theme. A great theme for Spooky would be Rocky Horror Picture Show, Monty Python, Clerks. Clerks would be a great theme for American Pinball. It's just chock full of one-liners and Kevin Smith would do it in a heartbeat. You want to use the whole movie, he'd give it to you in a second. Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, Exorcist, Psycho, horror works. I mean, look at Stern. They sold a lot of Walking Deads. Horror just works. I think Halloween would have done much better if the game looked better, if it played better. but let's own it. Halloween sold a lot of copies strictly based on the theme because the game did not look good. The art looked terrible. The CGI was not good. I mean, there's not a lot of great things to say about Halloween other than the fact that it was Halloween. So horror sells. Can you imagine Psycho having the house in the background? And think about Jaws and that creepy music, you know, just playing over and over again. Psycho would really work. Blade Runner, The Lost Boys, Gremlins, Weird Science. Here's one for you, Stern. Do Planet of the Apes. You had a big hit with Godzilla. Planet of the Apes would be right in that realm. Weird Science would be a great theme for spooky pinball. Death Race 2000, I would love to see that. Why not redo Terminator? It's actually rated the second best action movie of all time. We haven't had a Terminator with all the one-liners and the clips. What about The Good, the Bad, the Ugly with Clint Eastwood? That would be off the chain. Now, I'm just gonna run through several more. The Matrix, Top Gun, Indiana Jones. Of course, we've had 2 Indiana Jones, but not with movie clips, we haven't. Enter the Dragon would be one of the biggest pinballs you could ever have. You want to grow pinball? Do Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee is just that popular. He's popular all over the world, all over Asia, all over the United States. Every mixed martial artist loves Bruce Lee. 300, The Mummy, Men in Black, Rocky. Why hasn't there been a big Rocky pinball game? Jumanji, Karate Kid, Django Unchained, The Warriors would be a great boutique theme. Kick-Ass. I could see Stern doing Kick-Ass and that kicking ass on sales. Superman, Harry Potter, Thor, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Silence of the Lambs. Underworld would be a great theme. Saw and Scream. That would be a perfect theme for Stern to do. It would be like a Walking Dead sequel, really, because those themes are so popular with retail. Addams Family would be huge. If you could actually redo Addams Family, it'd be like doing another Elvira, but it had movie clips and things. The Thing would be really good for spooky. Now, we're gonna conclude this video I'm gonna give you my top themes that I think should be made. The Goonies, Enter the Dragon, Superman, The Vacation Series, Airplane, Smokey and the Bandit, Mad Max, Addams Family, Van Halen, Beastie Boys, Caddyshack, Three Stooges, Fast and Furious, Nirvana, Michael Jackson, and I'm gonna give you a theme that I think would just freaking sell like crazy, and that would be The Lost Boys. And that's a theme that Stern should do. When you think about the success you had with Walking Dead, Lost Boys covers it all. It has a great soundtrack. It's a horror movie with a lot of movie clips that would really translate well with a lot of one-liners, and it's a funny movie, and it's like The Goonies but horror. That would be a huge theme. I think the Lost Boys would be massive. But we're not thinking of any of these things. I think the Three Stooges would blow the roof off of sales just when it was announced that it was being done. Michael Jackson, Nirvana, Van Halen. Doing another Addams Family, Elvira should have showed you that, oh my gosh, people would go crazy for a new Addams Family, even if it was black and white TV show. I think I would rather have Addams Family than the Munsters. And I like the Munsters. Think about Enter the Dragon and Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is so massive and people collect it. Here's the thing you guys have to understand. When you're trying to sell more pinball machines than there are pinball buyers in the community, you got to think about a theme that's gonna jump pinball out of just the people who love pinball. Guns N' Roses sold over 5,000 copies for Jersey Jack because Guns N' Roses has a huge following, and those people bought it. Kiss is another example. There's people who collect anything and everything Kiss. Of course they're gonna want the pinball machine. Same thing with Nirvana. Three Stooges, things that are collectible. That's what the themes need to be. Themes that are collectible. They have a tie to collector industry. And I hate to tell you this, but probably the biggest collector market out there is gonna be horror and comic book stuff. They have conventions all over the place. Horror, there's so many of them, you can't even believe it. And it's like a multi-billion-dollar collectible industry. Another theme I would love to see is Universal Studios monsters. If you had Frankenstein versus Wolfman, Wolfman, Dracula, and they were all tied into one pinball machine, and it was black and white with a tint of green. I think that the collectible industry for horror is massive. If you did Universal Studios, the classic monsters, oh my God, that pinball would be huge. Well, there you go. There's my rant about pinball. Leave a comment below and tell me what themes you think. Tell me what you think about my ideas for trying to take the games, the technology, and bring them into the 21st century. Or is it 22nd century now? I don't know which one it is. I'm confused. But anyway, either way, I just wanted to put that out there. And Stern, please consider hiring Christopher Franchi to do some of your games in the future. I think he's the best pinball artist. He may not be the easiest person to work with, maybe not, but that you can't deny the skills. You can't deny the skills. So with that being said, that's my part 2. I don't have a part 3. I just wanted to get that out there. And I also wanted to address one other thing. When I said, you know, Foo Fighters or Venom, I'm running in a Pincade and I'm buying a lot of the games were location based. But one of the things, Stern, that you've done, and Jersey Jack, you've done, by raising the prices so high, but then give us themes that people don't want to pay $12,000, $15,000 for, is you're sending people into locations. It's like kind of like full circle how it started. So people are coming up and playing Elton John, and everybody who's playing Elton John says they love it, okay? But they don't want to spend $12,000 to $15,000 to buy their own. So I bought the game and people are coming up to play it. And yes, people will come here to play John Wick because they're not going to buy it. So I'll have John Wick, and they'll come up and they'll play it. And Venom, same thing. No one's buying this game. And so when people come up here, they're playing it because the rumor has it that Venom is Stern's #1 selling game. And they know this from the Insider Connect. They know that these machines, how much money they're making. And guess what? People are spending more money on Venom because they're not buying the game for their personal collections. Pick better themes, put more into the games, make them do more than they do now, and I think you're going to see some big results going forward. With all that being said, keep flipping.